Welcome back to Commander's Call. I'm Sam. That's Ben. A lot to talk about, including Terry McLaurin being released off the PUP, Monday Night Football coming up tomorrow against Cincinnati, positional breakdowns, and more. Stay tuned. This is Commander's Call.
Looking to keep it in his great move on his feet and in for the touchdown. Oh, what a move. Throws down the sideline for Terry McLaurin. McLaurin is loose. Lightning strikes twice in Washington.
Give me two black and a Ric Flair.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Sam for Ben. Been a little bit since we've talked, a lot to go over. Yesterday, Terry McLaurin was released off the PUP. Rather, he was activated off the PUP. Let me rephrase that. Meaning that he will now be available to practice after a quote unquote ramping up period, stated by Dan Quinn in his press conference yesterday. They did say that this is a medical process and this doesn't indicate that they are closer to a deal, although there have been rumors floating around that they are. Regardless, this is a step forward to getting Terry back on the field, which is necessary, especially given that they have canceled the joint practice with the Ravens this coming week. Ben, it's been a long saga with Terry, and it seems like it may
It
be
has.
getting to an end. What are your thoughts, here with him coming off of PUP and where we going moving forward?
I mean, it's definitely a good sign. Terry stated he would not be back on the practice field without a new deal. Said he couldn't see himself playing on his current contract. So him getting back out on the field seems to be a good sign that he's either giving up on that statement or that maybe the deal's coming soon. And if we look at maybe somewhat of a precedent, a couple weeks ago in Buffalo, James Cook, after making a similar comment about I won't practice without a new deal, started practicing and then like 2 days later got his new deal. So this could be a
Right.
good sign for Terry. Getting back out in the field, getting ramped back up could mean that there's faith that a deal's coming soon.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that, the press conference with Cliff the day before, I want to say Thursday or Friday, where he mentioned that it's kind of crunch time and getting, everybody on offense on the field so that they can start gelling. Um, it doesn't appear that he's going to play in any preseason games. Dan Quinn even mentioned that he's pessimistic that he'd play in the Ravens game, which I think I mentioned to you off the pod earlier this week that, even if he does practice, what really help is it going to be playing against the Ravens' fourth, fifth string guys that probably aren't even going to be on the team in the next couple of weeks? Is that really going to help Terry that much? I'm not sure. He's definitely not going to be out there with Jaden if that were the case. So all signs point to, Terry playing week one, as long as they can get him on the field practicing this coming week.
Yeah, I just think with the joint practice being canceled, there's a chance we could see teams play starters for a drive or two just to keep them warm. If that's the case, they might push Terry, but you're right. Third preseason game, you're normally not playing starters. Um, Going with the Cliff Kingsbury point, he was very firm on his stance. We've heard Dan Quinn the whole offseason be like, oh, well, they have this rapport from last year built up already. They're not going to miss a step because they already built up that connection. Whenever he's back, he'll be ready to go. And Cliff was kind of like, no, I need him back now. I need Terry back. I need Brandon Coleman back. I need Sam Cosby back. I need Terry back. I need everyone back so I can build my offense the way I want to. And that's
Yeah,
really the most firm stance we've heard on it this offseason in terms of, oh, well, everything will be all hunky dory when Terry is back. It's like, no, I need him back now to build this up.
I think it's important to note, though, that Dan Quinn is at a head coaching position and Cliff is just a coordinator, and it would have been hotter headlines had Dan Quinn said something like that. I believe
100%.
Dan Quinn's got to maintain, not that Cliff isn't maintaining a role of leadership, but I think in the position that Cliff is in, that he has more wiggle room in what he's able to say as opposed to what Dan Quinn can say. The other side of the coin, I don't think that this was planned, and Dan Quinn told him to say that, but Cliff comes across as
I
a
bet
very
they've had the
an
same
honest
conversations
person.
behind closed doors, though.
Maybe,
I
yeah.
bet
I
Dan
mean,
Quinn said the same. I don't think he said, "Hey, Cliff, say this at your press conference," but
definitely, yeah.
I'm sure they've expressed those frustrations to each other already behind public. Even though Dan will come out and be like, "Oh, it'll be all good when Terry's back," I'm sure behind closed doors, he's like, "Man, we need him back now."
Yeah, and like I don't think it was a surprise to Dan what Cliff said either. I don't think that was a
No,
surprise. Like
I don't think it surprised
to your
anybody.
point, no, not at all. And was that the push that that Terry needed or both camps needed to get this ball rolling or was it just non-coincidental? But who knows? Main point is Terry is looking to be back on the practice field, hopefully within the next week, and they can start gelling from there. Now, I want to address a little bit of the money talk that has been floating around, and the DK Metcalf contract has been a main talking point. Um, the organization itself has been extremely tight-lipped. Everything that we are talking about is pure speculation, and if anything tangible has made it to the press, I have an inkling to believe that was from Terry's camp and not from the Commanders' camp.
I would
Now,
agree.
there has been another rumor floating around that they actually came in at 35 to 40 million to start these negotiations, which to me would make sense why the Commanders were just like, no, like we're not even going to start negotiating until we're in a feasible ballpark where we feel like that the gap that exists is feasible to close. And I think the Commanders have extended olive branches, namely putting him on PUP with a phantom injury so he
So he
doesn't.
didn't have to pay fines
Right.
for
So he
missing.
doesn't, yeah. So he doesn't have to pay fines. And now I think it's gotten to a point where they're like, all right, like that olive branch has been pulled back. We're taking you off PUP. It's too close to the season. We need you practicing. I think it's a little bit of leverage being exercised by the team saying, hey, if you don't want to practice, we know you're healthy. Are you really willing to get fined every day that you're not at practice and then game checks and then God forbid you sit out the whole season, which I just cannot see happening
No.
at 30 years old. He's not going to Le'Veon Bell himself. And they fine you on bye weeks for games missed too. So that's 18 weeks of missed pay. End of the day,
And
if
losing out on assumed playoff checks that we think we're going to have coming in if we're as good as we think we are.
I mean, yeah, I don't even want to think about playoffs right now until Terry's back on the field. I think they still could be,
Right.
but it's going
I
to be
think we
a
can still
hell
make the
of a lot
playoffs without
harder.
him, but
Right.
we
It's
could
going to
not win
be
a
a
Super
hell of a
Bowl
lot
without him.
harder.
Back to the negotiation point. If you own a McDonald's and you're looking for a cook to come in and make $12 an hour, and I come in and I'm like, I want $30 an hour, you don't just negotiate that.
Right.
Like if there's someone, there can't just be like, oh, well, one side has their starting point, the other side has their starting point, and you got to work to meet in the middle. Both sides have to be reasonable.
Right.
Just like a company can't want to hire a minimum wage worker to come in and fix 100-foot tall light poles or whatever, where they got like one of the most dangerous jobs there is. Like there has to be a reasonable pay on both sides. Like you can't offer an obnoxiously low amount or try to go into McDonald's seeking 35 an hour to flip burgers. So anyone that's like, oh, they just need to meet in the middle, that's just unrealistic. And it seems 30 is the number that's been floating around, which would seem like a good deal for Terry, honestly, and probably a little more than the organization would want to go for. But if they're willing to give him 30, that might just be enough to like, get him happy, get him back on the field, and hopefully not have any hard feelings moving forward.
Right. And I don't think there's hard feelings right now. Like if there is, it may be between him and Adam Peters, but it's definitely not where it counts on the field. And I
Right.
think he will come back. I mean, he has been in the building the whole time with Dan Quinn. He's been in meetings, he's been working with trainers. It's not the same, but it's not like he hasn't been there. It's not a situation like Micah Parsons' situation in Dallas where there is teasing going on from both sides and contentiousness and the type of media coverage about Terry is vastly different than the media coverage from Micah Parsons. I mean, and this isn't even me taking a shot at Dallas. It's just the fact that there's very two prominent players in the media at the same time for very similar situations. However, there is a dichotomy to them, and that's what I was trying to explain. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, we've all known 17 is going to be on the field. It's just a matter of when. And hopefully the developments in the last few days are going to push this resolution to being sooner rather than later. So, with that, I can say everybody's ready for it to be over, including me. So hopefully we can just start podcasts from here on out
Yeah. And
talking
one more
about
thing.
football.
Right. And back to that Dallas point, I've seen people say, and I'm sure you've seen it too, people saying this deal will be done by now if Dan was still the owner. And it would be, but look at Dallas. Does Jerry get his deals done? He does, but he pays them $8 million more a year than he should have to because he
Yeah.
waits so long. So Dan was here, sure, maybe Terry to be signed, maybe he would have signed him for $38 million a year already and just like screwed us over with a crazy deal.
That's another point I want to bring up. I see a lot of people like, "Hey, why wasn't he signed early? Why didn't they take care of this early?" It takes two to tango. You have two parties in a negotiation. I would wager to say, based upon how hung up they've been on this DK contract, that they wanted to wait and see what the market was going to be. They weren't going to go set it themselves. And you can't sign a player early if they don't want to sign early. Like that's just not
Right.
like that. It just doesn't work like that. They could have walked up to him with 28, 29 and said, "Hey, this is our deal." But they could have, they probably didn't even offer anything because they knew that Terry wanted to test them, like not test the market, but see what the market was going to become before
Right.
entering
Wait
into the
out the market.
negotiations, which is very normal. You could say that worked for Terry. You could also say that worked against Terry, given DK. Then you have Cortland Sutton. Terry probably lies somewhere in the middle of that. And I think, to end this talk, 28 to 30 has always been the sweet spot. Get it done, get him guaranteed, give him 50
Yeah, it's
plus
really going to come
guaranteed, and
down to
get
the
get him in the
guarantee.
house. Yeah, absolutely. So wait and see. Hopefully within the next, couple days to a week or so, we'll have information on that. And obviously, when that time comes, there will be an emergency podcast, emergency episode, and we will discuss all that has developed with that. That being said, we're going to move into our coverage of the Monday Night Football game tomorrow. Preseason game number 2, 8 p.m. ESPN at home versus Cincinnati. Stick around. All right, the Commanders are hosting the Cincinnati Bengals tomorrow night at Northwest Stadium. Live coverage at 8 p.m. on ESPN. Dan Quinn has mentioned that a lot of the starters, including Jaden Daniels and Debo Samuel, will take the field. We will see starters from the Bengals as well, including Joe Burrow, Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and more. To go over the players that are out tomorrow, includes 3 of 5 starting offensive linemen. Obviously, Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown still out with a knee. Marcus Mariota dealing with a lower leg strain. Laramie Tunsil, I believe, will be held out of abundance of caution so that he's good to go for week 1. Zach Ertz, the same. Sam Cosmi still recovering from the ACL tear in January. His status for week 1 is still up in the air, although still possible. Left guard Brandon Coleman's been dealing with a lower leg injury as well. This time of year, they don't have to be as specific with injuries as they do during the season, so you get more of a NHL type injury explanation, which is lower body or upper body. So Brandon Coleman's rumored to have an ankle injury, but for now he is listed as a lower body injury. Now I think he will be available week 1, but for now he's out. And I really would have liked to see him in this game, considering he's going to be taking over at left guard. Also holding out Bobby Wagner. I would assume that is veteran rest. Von Miller as well. Jordan McGee and Javante John Baptiste missing another game. It's been really tough to see their development because I have high hopes for both of them, but they can't seem to stay on the field. And lastly, Jonathan Jones. I'm not sure what he's dealing with or if this is a veteran holdout, because he is getting a little bit up there in age as well, but he will not be playing this coming Monday. Now, for the Bengals, they will be missing Mike Gesicki, Miles Murphy, Cordell Volson, and Geno Stone. DJ Turner is questionable. Cam Taylor Britt will play. Dax Hill will play. So the amount of time the starters will play remains to be seen, but Dan Quinn said at least a couple series. So hopefully we get to see the first team offense and defense for perhaps a quarter. Unless obviously Jaden goes out first drive, 11 plays, touchdown. I think we've seen enough at that point. What are your thoughts going into this game with the players that won't be playing and will be playing, Ben?
I'm definitely excited to see the starters get out there because I think they can set the energy. Obviously, the energy was pretty off for the Patriots game, so my hope is the starters get out there, start off hot, and then when the backups come in, they can come in hot and maybe feed off that energy. But I think the player missing that concerns me the most is Jonathan Jones, just because he didn't play in the first preseason game. We found out he was dealing with an injury, and he hasn't really practiced at all. But there's been no report on what his injury is that I've seen. or like why he's being held out. So maybe it's just precaution with a veteran that's dealing with some sort of minor tightness that they're confident can just jump in and play. But it's kind of concerning that we haven't heard that much from him. Limited practice, no game playing time.
Luckily, this position group, and it's night and day difference from last year when they started three of the worst cornerbacks in the NFL at the same time, week one. Now you have Mikey Sanders, still Lattimore, Trey Amos has seemed to do well, and Noah I has really, really, really popped at camp and in preseason
He's a
games this
stud.
year. Yeah, former first round pick. I think a lot of people forget that. And
And he was 20 years old when he was drafted.
yeah, very, very young. Plays with his hair on fire, and honestly, like I see him as CB4. I think Jonathan Jones at this point is CB5 at best. Obviously, you don't want anybody to be injured, but if we can
Right.
afford a position group right now, I think somehow corner has become one of the most depth positions on the team. Um, but yeah, you want to see Jonathan Jones out there. He is a savvy veteran, so I don't see a situation where he doesn't make the team because I beyond him it does get murky. However, with him down at five, that is pretty deep. But we'll have to just wait and see, what that injury is because again, they're kind of pretty tight-lipped on what the injuries are this time of year. So, Marcus Mariota, how are your thoughts on that? I think he'll be ready for week one, but he hasn't hardly practiced. He hasn't played a game. Does that concern you at all?
If the injury is worse than we're being let on, yes, it concerns me that he might not be able to play for us if he's. But at the same time, I don't care that he's missing preseason games
Right,
because I don't need to see what Marcus Mariota can do in the preseason.
right.
We know what he is as a quality backup quarterback. I know that if Jaden gets hurt in week 3 and needs to take a couple plays off, Mariota can come in, or if we're blowing someone out, Mariota can come in and just keep the ship smooth to finish the game out. But if he's gonna have this like lasting into the season, and Josh Johnson and Sam Hartman are both of the second and third string quarterbacks, that's concerning. But in terms of missing preseason time, I really doesn't move me either way. It just gives us more chances to see what Hartman and Johnson can do, kind of to the downfall of the receivers not getting great passes thrown their way. And I guess that would be the biggest downside of missing Mariota is it's harder to evaluate some of those lower tier receivers.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. And I think if Mariota is somehow, too hurt to back up week one, I think the backup would become Josh Johnson and, Sam Hartman still on the team, QB3. Um, I think the biggest concern for me, going to touch back on what I said earlier, is Brandon Coleman. Now, Dan Quinn did say that he's hitting all his marks and he's just not quite ready for game action yet. So I think partially it's abundance of caution. I don't think the injury, trying to read the tea leaves, I don't think the injury is so bad to where it's going to potentially affect week one status. I think the reason that they're doing this now is to not affect the week one status, because it could be. I have a theory that it's a high ankle sprain. Nobody's told me this. I don't know for sure. However, high ankle sprains can take some time, like hamstrings, to settle down and very easy to re-aggravate. So something tells me that it's something along that line, considering it's a lower leg injury and, you got to drive off those feet. So, but with him moving inside, it is a little concerning considering you want to have your offensive line gelled, especially going into a week one matchup against the Giants with the amount of talent they have along their defensive front. Um, Another one I don't know if we'll see play in the preseason. Now, I think he has a much, much higher chance of playing the third preseason game than Terry does. I will say that. Plug him in for a couple reps. But I mean, also how
Get
much
some live
help is
action.
yeah, but also how much help is that gonna do for him if he's not playing alongside the guys that he's gonna be starting with week one? So little bit of a interesting situation there. But we won't be seeing Brandon Coleman tomorrow. Um, who do you think's gonna slide in at left guard tomorrow to
See, that's
start?
if Tunsil was playing, it would be the easy option. Oh, Wiley, he's been playing there for camp with Coleman out. But with Tunsil out, we have to assume that Wiley's going to play left tackle for the game. Like, is that like that's the hard part? Is does
Mm,
Wiley just stick at guard, or does he play left tackle? Maybe
I
they
think
throw
we'll
Foster,
see.
Sorrell, or Trent Brown out at left tackle, but I don't love that.
I think we're going to see
Trent
Trent.
Scott,
I think we'll see Trent
right?
Scott at left tackle if I
That
had to
just concerns me.
guess.
I'd rather Wiley play tackle and Trent Scott play guard, but I don't like that either, to be honest. So,
Well, I don't want Wiley at left tackle because he's not a left tackle. I'd rather have
so
Trent
I don't.
Scott.
I think he'd be better than Trent Scott, but it's
Uh,
also one preseason
I
game.
don't know.
It's
I don't
just
know.
this is concerning that we're throwing the starters out there, and the great depth pieces we have now in Allegretti and Wiley are being forced to be the starters now, and then like the depth after them is really not that great on the offensive line.
Well,
So
it
I'd
is
have to look into the
preseason,
depth chart and see who is the backup left tackle that they have listed, because that's probably who's going to start for the game, I'd imagine.
right?
Um, but I
Right,
don't know off the top of my head
right
who.
now
So
that's Trent Scott. Is
I guess maybe we'll see Trent Scott over there. That still concerns me, but we'll see how that goes.
well, they did a lot with less last year. You still have
I'd say
Jaden's
on the bright
legs and
side, no Trey Hendrickson for the Bengals still,
right.
and so you only deal Shamar Stewart. And that said, Miles Murphy was out too, so you're really only looking at one good edge rusher that they got out there,
Yeah.
and so just double team him and hope for the best everywhere else along the line.
Yeah, I can't see them putting Connerly over at left tackle, even though he played left tackle in college, just because they're trying so hard to get him to learn right tackle. So I don't think
I
it
had
would
heard they
be,
gave him some left tackle reps
yeah,
in
a
camp,
couple.
but I agree that they're trying to develop him to be a right tackle. They're not going to throw that all off for one preseason game where they're doing a vet rest day for
Right.
Tunsil.
Especially not in the first year when he's just learning right tackle. I just can't see that happening. All right, now let's go into a little bit of positional matchups and internal position battles that we have going on. There really isn't, it's kind of hard to find them. There really isn't a whole lot of them this year. Obviously, you have Hartman versus Johnson for QB3, and I think that's pretty much already settled, honestly. Um, Nothing against Sam Hartman, but he just doesn't look like an NFL quarterback. Josh Johnson looked a lot more comfortable week one preseason against the Patriots than
I
Sam
will
Hartman
say,
did.
I think Hartman got a little bit of a bad rap in that game. He was getting pressured insanely. He was out there against the Patriots' first string defense, where Josh Johnson got to come in against their second string defense. And you think Hartman threw a beautiful deep ball to Chris Moore that was dropped. And then like the next play he threw the pick trying to make something out of nothing because it was, third and long now because of the penalty. The penalty backed him up after the big throw that was dropped. And then trying to do too much on a third and long. He threw a pick where Michael Gallup slipped and fell.
Yeah.
So he couldn't even try to make a play on the ball. And then he throws another beautiful ball to KJ Osborne. That should be a touchdown. And that's dropped. So you figure Gallup doesn't slip. Moore holds on to the two passes he dropped. And KJ Osborne makes that pass. And then you're looking at 150 yards and a touchdown, no pick, instead of like 50 yards, no touchdown, one pick. So he did have some bad throws, but you'd expect that from a QB3. But he also had some really nice plays with his legs that you'd want out of your QB3 just to make something happen. And he had some really nice deep downfield throws that should have been caught and hopefully would be caught if he had to come in and throw those to Terry and Debo and not Chris Moore and KJ Osborne. So
Definitely. It's the lack of arm strength to the edges that concerns me because
yeah, 100%.
that eliminates your outside throws pretty much when Sam Hartman's in the game. And Josh Johnson at least has that arm. They're not very accurate. He can still make those throws, and he's better with his legs. Even though Sam Hartman's got a little bit of chops on the ground,
Yeah.
Josh Johnson still at 38, 39 years old is
right.
better than Sam Hartman, in my opinion.
If you don't have that arm strength, you need to make up for it with anticipation. And I noticed on that curl that he threw to Gallup that got picked. Yes, Gallup slipped, but he also definitely waited too long to throw it.
Very much so.
Even playing catch in the backyard with my dad, the first thing he tells you is the ball is going to be there already when you turn around. So be ready for it. But Sam Hartman threw that. He waited for Gallup to turn around and look at him before he even let the ball go. So you got to make up for Mahomes can throw it like that because he's got the arm to. But Sam Hartman can't do that. So he's got to make up for that with the better anticipation if he's going to, survive with a weaker arm in NFL.
Yeah, I think ultimately he's a guy that, we see come back to the practice squad, if I had to guess, but we'll get into that in another episode when we make our final roster predictions. Now, Bill looks like he's good to go. He did go out of the game, the first preseason game against New England. Bill has injured Corey Kosky-Merritt, the seventh-round rookie running back. He went out of the New England game with a concussion, wore a non-contact jersey all week, but Dan Quinn did say that it was out of abundance of caution, and he will play Monday night. Now, Bill has been probably the biggest talk out of camp this year. Um, One cut up the field, great vision running back. A lot of people think he's going to be RB1, and we've talked about this before. I think that's a little unrealistic. It's going to be a committee approach, at least to start the year. And B Rob, I don't want to get into too deep into those rumors, but there was a rumor swirling around of him being traded. I just don't see that being credible at all. It wouldn't
I
make
don't
any
see it
sense. It just doesn't make any
unless
sense
they
to me.
love what Chris
Right?
Rodriguez has done in camp.
Yeah,
That would be
like
the only way. But I haven't seen him even get any first string snaps.
right,
So
and that's a whole nother talk. That's just confusing to me. It just doesn't seem like C Rod gets the opportunities, and if he did, you never know. However, you kind of have Bill Merritt versus Jeremy McNichols, Dominic Felton at this point. Jeremy McNichols has made a really strong case for the roster, and this is not, when I say battle here, I do think that they are going to keep both Merritt and McNichols at this point. It's just
yes,
kind of who's going to get more reps to start the year is where I'm at with this, whether it's going to be McNichols or it's going to be Ja'Cory Koski Merritt. Now, if Ja'Cory shows out these next, I don't know if he balls out this preseason game, he's not playing in the third preseason game. I would wager to guess. Now he is a seventh round pick, but when you play well, your draft status kind of goes out the window. All right, and he's made a lot of plays, and the I think he's gonna have a big night on Monday. I could see him having a touchdown, 50 plus yards in the first half against what has not been a great Bengals defense historically, and they're gonna be missing some players up front. And although we are too in the offensive line, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt has found seams where nobody really realized they would exist so far this camp and in the first preseason game. So I'm excited to watch his progression.
yeah. I mean, I think looking at his performance in the first preseason game, it's a prime example of why stats don't always tell the whole truth.
Right.
He had seven. I think it was like seven rushes for only like 25 yards or something like that. Not super great if you're looking at it from a yards per carry standpoint, but almost every single snap, it was two defenders instantly in the backfield the second
Yep.
he had the ball, and he somehow made both of them miss, bounced off one, and picked up 3 yards, or just got back to the line of scrimmage on a play that should have been a loss of three. And that's a superpower for a running back is to turn a loss of three into a gain of one, or a gain of one into a gain of four, because that's what keeps drives going, especially in an offense like ours where we're consistently going on 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 play drives. Turning those short runs into that extra couple of yards is going to make all the difference.
Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt is the type of running back to where we when I scream run the damn ball, eventually you can beat a team into attrition and those running plays will start working. And this is not putting B Rob down because I don't think B Rob is a three down back. I've never thought he's a three down back. He holds value in a committee and in the red zone, in my blunt opinion. When you're running B Rob over and over and over again, you're going to get the same result because B Rob is not going to hit those seams. Now, you got Ja'Cory Koski Merritt, and to your point, if he gets hit in the backfield and stopped for a 1 yard gain on 1st and 10, and you have 2nd and 9 as opposed to B Rob getting stopped in the backfield for 2nd and 13, if you keep hitting those 1 yard runs over and over again, and it may not be a 1 yard run every time. You might get a 5, you might get a 6. By the third quarter, if Corey Crossing Merritt is able to withstand, I don't want to say beating, but that workload, those holes are going to start getting wider, and he's going to cut people up. I'm telling you, like he's the kind of running back that you can lean on that he can beat a team into attrition and take advantage when they start slacking off a little bit.
Yeah, I think he allows, like you said, Brian Robinson's not a three down back. I don't really even think he's a first down back in general. He can be in situations, obviously, but he's the kind of guy you bring in on your second and shorts, or your third and shorts, or in the red zone, like you said, or just like you're setting up with this, you have Bill out there all day and he's bouncing off people, making a miss, being agile. You got people on their toes, and you bring Brian out to you're on your toes. Well, I'm going to run over you because you got to be, you can't be on your toes to tackle a big guy. You got to be set and firm to wrap him up. So that's you set the guys up to bring in a bruiser like that.
Mm-hmm.
And B Rob doesn't have the speed to make a big breakaways of runs. Like we saw him with two big runs last year. he got hawked down by the Giants when there was so much open space. And then the Tennessee one, the safety took. I got into a debate on Twitter about this with someone that was defending Brian, but the safety took the world's worst angle and still almost caught him 10 yards down the field. But luckily, the end zone was there. So by the time he caught him, he was like, it was as he was reaching the plane. But that's another 10 yards. He's getting hawked down by a guy that he already ran past at one point. So
Yeah.
it's just, he's not the speed guy, obviously. He's the power guy. And that's, you look at like a Peyton Barber. I think he's probably better than a Peyton Barber, but that's
Right.
the kind of role you want him in. And we saw B-Rob not be as effective in those short yardage situations last year because he was being used as a 3-down back. And I feel like he's getting exhausted. Teams are preparing for him. They know
Yeah,
what
he
to
was
expect.
dinged up.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like we say, I don't think Bill's going to be the starting running back at any point this year. He might have to be if B-Rob does what B-Rob does and gets hurt in week 9, week 10, misses a game, comes back for 1, misses 2, plays a half.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna see more carries just purely based off the fact that we can't trust B-Rob to stay healthy.
Yep, that's very true. I think we're going to see a lot of different running back combinations this year, to be honest with you. All right, on to the next player that I'm really, really excited to watch on Monday night is Trey Amos. I know we touched on that a little bit earlier, but I believe that if Connerly hadn't been there in the first round, that this would have been their first round pick in Trey Amos.
100%.
And besides Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, he has been far and away one of the most talked about, if not the most talked about rookie coming out of camp. Very fluid in the hips, very competitive. Seems to play with more of a veteran presence than a rookie does. And, although we haven't seen him in regular season action, he has a lot of promise to him and really, really opens up this defensive backfield. I think Trey Amos is going to be a solid starter from the first time he steps on the field, September 7th at home versus the Giants.
Aren't you just so excited to watch him try to play against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins tomorrow?
I am. That's gonna be a real tell, man, because I think they're gonna come out firing. They're gonna come out firing, and I think, you just think about back to the game last year, how they came out firing and first, right down the field, Jamar Chase touchdown. I think it was over Sandersville.
It was.
If I remember correctly.
Still, but that's not
Yeah.
the one-on-one matchup
No, not at all. And it's nothing against Sandersville. I mean,
no, it's not.
It was just learning to play outside. If they had caught Sandersville 8-9 weeks later, I think it might have been a different story. However,
I think that actually was his first game playing outside.
Yeah,
too,
it was.
He played outside. He played inside against the Bucks and got toasted by Chris Godwin. Then played inside against the Giants and got toasted by Wan'Dale Robinson. Then they go, okay, now go out play outside against Jamar Chase, and he held his own for what he had to do. But I mean, obviously, it's Jamar Chase. So,
well, speaking of Mikey Sandersville, the fact that they drafted Trey Amos allows them to move Mikey Sandersville back into his natural position at the nickel. It'll be really interesting to see how he develops there too, and that's. I think Mikey's playing tonight a little bit, so it'll be interesting to see tomorrow night. It'll be interesting to see how all 3 starting corners play together, because I don't think that we've seen that yet so far. We got Lattimore, Amos, and Sandersville in the slot. And he plug in Noah I there too, man. Like I keep going back to this defensive backfield. I think it's underrated. It's going to turn out to be, barring injury, one of the best in the league, honestly, with the talent that they have. And Trey Amos really opens that up for everybody. And I'm just so excited, like you said, to watch him against Jamar Chase, T. Higgins tomorrow.
I mean, people talk about, everyone's been talking about the cornerback room. They've got the potential to be a top 5 unit in the NFL, in my opinion. But the whole DB room really is pretty solid when you add in Martin. And am I a little worried about the other safety spot? Yes, just only because we're unsure. I guess it's not. I guess I'm not even worried about it. I'm just unsure about it.
Sure.
Will Harris has kind of had a quiet camp, which isn't necessarily bad. It's just everyone's like, oh yeah, you're gonna be surprised by how good this guy can be, and then we haven't just really heard anything about him. So
I've heard some plays.
That's a bad thing. Yeah, I'd say it's been a pretty. You hear a couple plays from almost everyone at some point.
They've also been rotating a lot of those safeties too, between Jeremy Reeves and Tyler Owens. Too. Yeah,
is you got Jeremy Reeves seeing more defensive playing time, which we really haven't seen since that 2020 year with, where he sneaked into the playoffs. Was really the last time that he got significant defensive snaps. It feels like, and Tyler Owens getting a lot of reps, even though it seems that's kind of cooling off. Percy Butler, of course, but I think the team's kind of cooled off on wanting to be on defense. I feel like he's the
Yeah,
new
oh for
Jeremy Reeves in
sure.
terms of you just come play special teams and we'll try somebody else's safety.
I think that's exactly what's happening, and I'm totally fine with that. And Percy's great on specials. You can't find guys. People think just because you're on special teams, you're a bad player. That's not true at all. And it takes a certain type of player to play special teams, and you have to be willing to play special teams, and a lot of these guys aren't. So it's not as easy as you would think it is to find very good special teams players. So it wasn't very popular re-sign when it happened because obviously everybody's just waiting on Terry News and like in a vacuum, when you look at Percy Butler, yeah, he's given up a lot of plays in the defensive backfield, but with the depth that they have now in the defensive backfield, if Percy Butler's seeing the field and anything more than, one down a series, then we're in trouble, I would say. But for what he
Yeah.
does, he's great on special teams, and Tyler Owens going back to that's another guy that I'm excited to watch tomorrow night because he is so raw and so athletic and he's had a year in the system now. He seems like the type of guy to where if he gets a chance at a spot, he's going to hold on to it and he's not going to give you a reason to take him off of it. And that's what you want. Like that doesn't damn Will Harris at all. And that just gives us another weapon to use. And now that they've had Jeremy, they've been really introducing Jeremy Reeves back into defensive plays like a lot, it seems like. I mean, he's been making big hit after big hit. And I'm excited to see if they're gonna use him as more in the defensive game plan this year because he flies around to the ball
I mean,
and he's
Reeves
just
plays defense like he plays special teams. He
yeah,
flies around, plays with a lot of heart, and he's hitting you. You know, if he
and
sees you, he's hitting you.
he's a team captain too. I mean, you want those type of guys on the field as much as you can get him on the field. At this point in his career, he's essentially another coach on the field. So yeah,
And
I
if you
mean,
can get, as a guy who's a primary special teamer, he's not making a ton of money. And so if you can get quality defensive play out of that, then that's worth the paycheck you're giving him.
absolutely. And Reeves is one of those glue guys that like really is comes down to the heartbeat of the team. I really believe that he's one of the last Redskins still on the team. One of my favorite players personally. Great story. Undrafted free agent, cut like 7 times, I think, on and off the practice squad. Now he's a team captain, working his way back into defensive snaps. So that's pretty sick. Speaking of defensive snaps, we have Madrano versus McGee. Now we already mentioned that McGee's not going to play. Still dealing with a hamstring issue, although Dan Quinn said he too is progressing. But McGee is somebody last year in camp that had a whole lot of upside, played with his hair on fire. Um, but then the injury bug kind of hit him all year long. Like had a knee issue, and now he's got a hamstring issue, which you kind of have to wonder if that's stemming from the knee issue. But drafted Kay Madrano this year in the 6th round out of UCLA, I believe, and he worked with our linebackers coach in college, and now has made some plays this camp and last week in the New England game. Very raw, converted wide receiver, looks like a safety, but very athletic, very good in pass coverage, and he had some really nice plays against New England. Had a nice tackle for loss, got some nice thumps on some guys. So it'll be interesting to see how far, if at all, Madrano moves past McGee, just given the fact of availability. Now, I think McGee has, the talent to do it, but can he stay on the field? And, nobody, NFL, not for long. They wait for nobody. Is Madrano the future here now? Is that where we're trending towards? Is Madrano really becoming the guy that we thought McGee was going to be?
I think there's definitely a conversation here with McGee's availability. Missed most of last year. We talked about hasn't had a great camp in terms of staying on the field. From everything I've heard, he's looked straight on the field, but he's just not on the field that often. I think the hardest part of this debate, if we're really getting into it, is that McGee is the true Mike linebacker that could replace Bobby in that role when Bobby retires. Where I just don't see Madrano as that true Mike. So even if we're talking about for this year getting playing time, I think there's a good chance that we could see Madrano maybe jump McGee over that because of the injury stuff. But if we're looking at long-term future plans, I just don't know if Madrano is capable of that, quarterback of the defense, true Mike with all the responsibilities that comes with that, and then also just like the play style that comes with that. I think Madrano is more of your Luvu type where you let him play crazy and free, and McGee's more of that Mike, Bobby Wagner type where he can be the captain and to kind of patrol the defense.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out. It's still very early in Madrano's development, but all signs are pointing upward for him right now, and I think the sky is the limit. If he can put on a little bit of weight and maintain his muscular and athletic twitch, I think that there's a really good chance that we could see him being a really solid player for us. And hopefully McGee, gets the injury issues together too, and we can have both of them thumping behind the line for a while. That leads me into probably my biggest thing to watch, and I would say at this point maybe the biggest concern on the team, and that's our depth at wide receiver. Obviously, with Terry McLaurin dealing with the contract issue for the entirety of this offseason, we've gotten to see a lot of what our depth looks like behind Terry, Debo. Obviously, Noah Brown's been hurt. He had that quote unquote knee injury back in minicamp. Hurt his or lacerated his kidney last season. He's been on and off the field pretty much his whole career. So hopefully he's available for week one. We don't know. But behind that, you have Luke McCaffrey, obviously third round pick last year. They signed Michael Gallup out of retirement. You got undrafted rookie free agent Ja'Cory Brooks, undrafted rookie free agent Jacoby Jones, Tay Martin, Braylon Sanders, who they just signed from the UFL DC Defenders. They just cut Michael Strachan or Strain. I don't know how to pronounce his last
I've
name, and I
heard it. People say it
apologize.
a bunch of
Yeah,
different ways.
and they pick up River Craycraft, 32 career receptions, 30 years old from Miami. That one's interesting because he was with Wes Welker in Miami and played a lot of special teams. So that is an interesting one to watch. I don't know if he'll make the roster. If he does, he doesn't. He's not making it as a pass catcher, obviously. But if they need help with special teams and he's a good gunner, you never know. KJ Osborne's another, and then Chris Moore, who shown honestly all camp and was seemed to be a reliable target in practice, and dropped numerous balls Monday night. I mean, just easy balls. The only one that's really stood out at all from your Debo's, your Noah Browns, your Terry McLaurin's to me is Ja'Cory Brooks, and 5 receptions, 59 yards last week. That's really good, but it's not eye-popping numbers. He's definitely working his way into a roster spot, especially given that he has a skill set and body type that we don't have at about 6'5". I think he's
He
gonna have
looked
to.
big in the clips too. Like he doesn't.
Yeah,
He looks like sometimes you forget how big 6'3", 6'4" can look, and then you see him on the field and up against the corners. Like, damn, that guy's huge.
right. So outside of him, they're going to need somebody to step up in these next couple preseason games. I almost forgot to mention Jalen Lane too, but that's pretty. He's a lock to make the roster, and they didn't use him a whole lot the first preseason game, so you got to kind of wonder if maybe they're hiding that skill set for week one. So not really a big part of this conversation. Maybe we'll see a little bit of him tonight or tomorrow night. Maybe at punt returner, we'll see a little bit more of him actually than we'll see him at wide receiver. But I think Jalen Lane's somebody that we're going to see more of in the regular season. But I digress. Out of these receivers, River Craycraft, Braylon Sanders, Tay Martin, I'm going to skip over Ja'Cory Brooks, Jacoby Jones, Michael Gallup, KJ Osborne, and Chris Moore. You're going to need one or two of those guys to step up a little bit, or else they're going to have to start looking elsewhere for some wide receiver help. Saying that, who do you think is most likely of that group to shine or show something of reliability to justify a spot on this roster?
If we're going outside of Ja'Cory Brooks, and obviously outside of the five that we've already talked about being locks for the team, so we're looking outside of that, let's say top six. I think Tay Martin has been the one that's kind of showed the most promise. I was kind of impressed with his preseason, and seems that he's been doing well in camp. So I'd say that's the name I'd look out for in this preseason game is Tay Martin. No one else really excites me that much, if I'm being honest. Chris Moore, there's a reason he's 33 and can't stick around on the roster. He's not going to magically be your solution. KJ Osborne, we talked about it. He looks good sometimes, but same issue as Moore, this drop balls.
Mm-hmm.
Gallup, I haven't really heard that much good stuff out of him this whole camp.
How is Gallup going to make the team? Think about this. We're talking about maybe one wide receiver spot because, like we said, the top five are locked down. They might end up just carrying five. I think they'll carry six, but that sixth wide receiver is going to have to play special teams. Michael Gallup's not going to play special teams. I don't see any way that he makes this roster unless they somehow carry seven wide receivers, which given the injuries they have on the offensive line, I just don't see that happening.
We're in a weird spot because we really have three options. Obviously, just carry five and say no one is good enough to be the six. We'll just carry five. If you could keep a six, and it could be a guy, probably Ja'Cory Brooks from what we've seen so far, but maybe they want to go legacy and they pick a guy like Osborne or Gallup. Because I really think
Right.
it's between those two for the veterans. I think this one, if you're keeping six, it's Osborne, Gallup, or Brooks. Or you go, the third route would be bring in a new guy. Like if you look at the receiver market, it's not great. Does Amari Cooper excite you?
No,
Not really.
not
And
at
is he
all.
going to want to be a fourth receiver? Probably not.
He doesn't fit here at all.
No. And then if we move down one, Gabe Davis, and he's been dealing with injury concerns. I just don't think he's really that great of a fit. And part of me almost thinks the best option we have, bring Jamison Crowder back in to be the sixth.
I
I
agree
think
with
that
you.
if we're super insistent on keeping a sixth receiver, there's a reason Jamison Crowder is still available. But I think he's better than some of these guys. I think he's like people just assume, oh well, no one signed him yet. It's because he's not good. It's like no, it's because we know what he is. We wanted to see what Chris Moore could be. We wanted to see what Michael Gallup could be. We wanted to see what KJ Osborne could be, Tay Martin, etc. Tay Martin and Braylon Sanders are not better than Jamison Crowder.
No,
But you don't need Jamison Crowder to be here for the whole camp to see what he can be.
you're
So
100%
he's the
right.
kind of guy that you sign the week before the season starts. It's like, well, we went through camp, no one's better than you, whatever, you come back. So I could see that being a realistic possibility if they're insistent on keeping six, and for some reason they don't want it to be Ja'Cory Brooks, because Crowder can be the backup punt returner, and we know he's got reliable hands at the very least to catch the punt. So I think he can provide value because he plays that special teams role. He's familiar with the team and the area and the system because he was here last year, and he's just that
Yeah.
consistent veteran is going to show up and do it right, and he doesn't need the whole offseason to get ready to play.
He's not going to drop a lot of balls, I'll tell you that much. I've been watching Jamison Crowder for the better part of a decade, and he's always been
I love
very,
Jamison Crowder
yeah,
growing up.
he's always been one of my favorite players, honestly. He's just like silent assassin, shows up, goes to work, never complains. I mean, and look, dude, like even last year, like there's times where like they needed him, they called on him. In that Eagles game, he had two touchdowns, including the game winner. Like he's savvy. He's savvy. He's been here, and I think you hit the nail on the head with that take, man. I really do. And I think Ja'Cory Brooks ultimately will end up on the practice squad, and we'll have Jamison Crowder in as at the bottom of the wide receiver chart. And although, yes, I think that is a good point because, like I said, Gallup's not going to play special teams. Crowder's not going to be running down a kick or a punt, but he does
No, he's
offer
not going to be
value.
gunning.
He offers value as your backup returner. And
I
also, I
just
mean, to have Luke McCaffrey there who did it a little bit last year too, and I think
right,
was a little bit better on kickoffs than he was punts, but I
yeah,
think a little bit easier to gain yardage on punt or kickoffs and punts. But anyway, that's for a different time. Um,
right. I do worry that there could be a team desperate enough to claim Ja'Cory Brooks if we do release him. Not that he's some huge valuable asset to lose, but I do like him. Because he does have that size. If Noah
right.
Brown misses time, we don't have anyone else that really has that size.
That's a really fair
And so I
point.
honestly think, even though Crowder's not on the roster, if they're keeping six, I think it's between Brooks and Crowder, which might sound crazy because he's not on the roster, but he's a guy that's familiar, like we said. And Brooks is the only other guy that provides that size that we'd be missing out on if we were to lose Noah Brown.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to watch. If Noah Brown ends up starting the season on IR or PUP, then that'll change, the outlook of everything. So definitely something to keep an eye on. As we wrap up, it's really hard to predict preseason games, so just do it for S's and giggles. But how do you see this game going overall, Ben? Like, what's your prediction?
I'm not going to give like a score prediction because that's irrelevant in the
Ah,
preseason.
no, we're gonna do it anyway. Come on.
We're going to give a score prediction.
Yeah,
Okay.
why not? It's
I'm going to
fun.
say, okay. What's tough is I'm probably going to say that the Bengals are going to probably score like 31,
Damn.
and we're probably going to score like 24 is how I see this going.
Thirty-one
Just
twenty-four
because
Bengals.
31-24 Bengals, because Zach Taylor said that their starters are going to play significant time,
Yeah.
more than week one. They played almost the whole quarter week one. They're going to play the whole quarter this week. They're going to play maybe into the second quarter. I don't think our starters are going to play that far. So I could see it being 7-7 going into the second quarter. Then we pull our starters and they don't. And then they put up another 10. Then it's maybe 17-7 or 17-10 going into half, and then they just keep they keep pulling away or something like that. I just think that their offense is gonna let's really go crazy on our backup defense in the second quarter when we pull all of our guys.
Yeah, impossible to predict. That's why I'm going to throw a little crazy one out there. I'm going to say we're going to tie 26-26, just like London in 2016. We're going to tie. Dustin Hopkins is going to miss a field goal after. I'm kidding. No, I'm gonna say they play to a tie. Why not?
Yeah,
Hopefully both teams make it out unscathed, no injuries, get good work, and wrap up the second game of the preseason and get closer to the regular season, man.
right. And I'll say for anyone out there watching this or listening to this on audio platforms, if you are watching the game tomorrow night, do not watch the score, please, and do not get on Twitter and complain that we lost afterwards. Please
Yeah.
just watch the matchups. How did Jaden look and the rest of the starters look out there in the first quarter? Did it look like they're missing a step? Are the guys playing with a better energy than last week? Is Bill getting a couple good runs? Is this guy beating his matchup for this? Is Trey Amos locking down his guy? Like, that's what we should be looking at, not, oh my goodness, they scored a 50-yard touchdown. I don't care.
Unless it's the kicker, that's the only time that you're allowed to complain.
I agree. Matt Gay cannot miss kicks. People pointed out how very funny it was because last year from 49 under, it was a single kick. And then the first kick of the year is exactly 49 yards, and he misses it. And it's like, that was the range you did not miss from last year. And then you get to that exact number on the high end of that.
Now, I will say I should have included him in things to watch. Yeah, we'll throw that in there now. Watch the kicker. They did throw him a significant amount of money. It is the most guaranteed money in a 1-year deal for a kicker in NFL history, which is pretty wild. And I complain a little bit because he does have an issue. There's a reason he's on his fourth team, and he has a hard time hitting from past 49, and he played in domes in his last two places, so there's really no excuse. That being said, I do think he is the best kicker that we've had since McManus. So I don't want to completely rag on the guy until I have full reason to. However, I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit wary of this.
Yeah.
Because I don't think going for it on fourth down, even though how good they were last year, I still think we'll be good on it this year, but I don't think at the rate that we hit last year is sustainable. And it'd be nice if we had somebody that we were more, had more faith in at that distance, so they don't have to really have to go for it on fourth down all the time. But I mean, if they're hitting them, they're hitting them. You just like to have a good kicker, that you can rely on from that far of a distance, which is hard to find, but kind of nitpicking here.
Right. I think the part that gets me the most with the kicking situation is we re-signed Zane Gonzalez and then cut him before we even got to any offseason program to bring in Matt Gay.
Right.
So even if you wanted to give Matt Gay that crazy contract, I still would have kept Zane Gonzalez or Austin Seibert around for camp at least to put some pressure on Matt Gay. But
I think it's a double-edged sword.
The team wanted to commit and show that they're confident in him.
Yeah.
But then he hasn't been that great, So almost every team brings in kicker competition, even if they have a guy. So
yeah, if he misses a kick on Monday, I think we could see some competition come in. But until now, it's the Gay way, Tress way, Matt Gay. Here we go, baby.
And all right, Tyler Otware 69. So
couldn't be more perfect. Throw in Colson Yankoff and just what a hell of a squad. What a hell of a squad.
Special teams, they got some freaky stuff going on.
All right, with that, I am Sam for Ben. This is Commander's Call. Please like and subscribe. We are available on all streaming platforms, video style on YouTube, audio on all others. We will be back this coming week to break down what happens in the preseason game tomorrow night. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.